My mom let my sister and her kids take over my room, then called me selfish when I moved out. Hi, I'm Oliver, 34, and I thought moving back home to save money was a smart, responsible adult move, until the people I called family turned my life into a tug-of-war over space, silence, and basic respect. I didn't move back in because I failed. I wasn't broke or in trouble. I just did the math. I work in a high-demand tech field, tight deadlines, fast pivots, intense focus. Rent was bleeding my paycheck dry, and since I wasn't married, had no kids, and didn't party, the idea of paying for an empty apartment I barely used started to feel stupid. So, I moved back in with my mom, Sarah. We had history, sure, but she wasn't toxic. Just dramatic. Emotional before logical. She liked to be the one in charge, but also liked bills to be mysteriously paid without her asking. I figured if I paid my share and kept a low profile, we'd get along fine. And for a while, we did. I turned my old room into a legit home office. Not a gaming setup. A proper, wired, multi-monitor, productivity beast. Clean. Organized. Cabled with care. My job depends on it. When I close that door, I'm not lounging in bed. I'm on the clock. Deliverables, deadlines, dev calls. That room was my lifeline. I paid rent. I paid for the internet. I split utilities, bought groceries, didn't complain when I picked up the slack. Never missed a payment, never asked for anything. My mom didn't praise me for it, but she didn't argue either. That was the balance. I wasn't a freeloader. I was a tenant with a side of family. Keep the peace, stay in your lane, do your work. That was the deal. Until it wasn't. It started with a casual sit-down. Sarah told me Megan, my younger sister, was moving back in. Temporarily. Just until she figures things out. She said. Megan had 2 kids and another failed relationship. Sarah was already in rescue mode before I could say a word. I didn't fight it. I asked some basic questions. How long? Where would they stay? What's the plan? Sarah waved it off with her favorite line. You're worrying too much. That was when the hair on my neck stood up. Because in my family, you're worrying too much doesn't mean they've got it handled. It means they've already decided, and you're just supposed to adapt. Megan showed up on a Tuesday, like a hurricane in leggings and exhaustion. 2 overstuffed SUVs. Bags, boxes, toys, laundry baskets full of who knows what. Not one suitcase. Not one. We'll be out soon. Item in sight. She didn't knock. She didn't say hi. Just brushed past me muttering about traffic and how everything's a mess right now. Her boys, Jake, 6, and Ben, 3, ran inside like they just broken out of a cage. No shoes off. No greetings. One of them knocked over a lamp before Sarah even closed the front door. She just laughed. They're excited. Megan didn't say a word to them. Didn't tell them to slow down, to be careful, to acknowledge the adult who, by the way, pays the internet bill that keeps their tablets alive. I stayed quiet. Went to my room. Locked the door. That was my line. My space. Untouched, respected, secure. It lasted an hour. Running. Thuds. Doors opening and slamming. I cracked my door and saw them sprinting down the hall like it was a bounce house. Nobody stopped them. Megan didn't even look up. Sarah pretended not to notice. Later, while I was cooking, Megan asked, again, what it was I did for work. Same job I've had for years. Same explanation I gave at the last family event. She nodded slowly and said, Must be nice, getting paid to sit around on your computer. Sarah laughed. Not a mean laugh. But not the kind you forget. That night, Jake asked me about my room. Why it was locked. What was in there? Megan piped up. He's probably got some cool secret stuff in there. I cut it off gently but clearly. My room is my office. It's not for play. The equipment in there isn't cheap and it's not replaceable. Megan smiled like I was being dramatic. Sarah nodded like she agreed, but I knew that nod. That nod means, I'll agree now, but later I'll pretend this conversation never happened. By the end of that week, it was chaos. Megan stayed up late watching Netflix at full blast. The kids were up before the sun, sprinting through the house. I found myself eating cereal out of a cup because all the bowls were always dirty. Groceries I bought disappeared overnight. No one asked? No one offered to chip in. Sarah kept saying, It's just an adjustment. They're going through a lot. No one asked what I was going through. The day everything cracked, it wasn't loud. It wasn't a fight. It was quiet, too quiet. I'd stepped out to grab lunch. 20 minutes, max? I always locked my room. Always. But when I came back and walked up the stairs, I felt it before I saw it. My door was unlocked. I stood there for a second, hand on the knob, already knowing. I opened it. My bed was pushed up against the wall and covered in toys, dinosaurs, action figures, plastic bins stacked like they lived there. My desk had been shifted sideways. Cables dangled loose. One of my monitors was lying against the wall, disconnected. Another had a fingerprint smear across the entire screen. My perfectly coiled cords were unraveled and shoved into corners. And sitting in my recliner, my chair, was Jake. Feet up. Spinning slowly like it belonged to him. Ben sat on the floor pulling out drawers, exploring like he was at a children's museum. Neither of them looked surprised. They didn't even flinch. Like they'd been told this was fine. I didn't yell. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, "What are you doing in my room?" Jake shrugged. Ben giggled. That's when Sarah came rushing up the stairs, eyes wide like I was the problem. She told me to watch my tone, because I was scaring the kids. Megan followed right behind, arms folded like she was the bouncer at a club she didn't own. They needed more space, she said, like that made sense. The guest room's too cramped. This just works better. I pointed at my equipment and asked why it had been touched. Sarah said, "It's not damaged, just unplugged. You can set it back up later." Megan added, "The kids didn't mess with anything important." I stared at them both. This room isn't just where I sleep. It's where I work. I pay rent. This setup pays the bills that keep the lights on. You don't get to move my things without asking. Sarah cut me off. This is my house. There it was, she said. Sometimes family has to make sacrifices. Megan chimed in with that smug little smirk. You don't need all that space. The kids need it more. You should be thinking about someone besides yourself. Sarah backed her up without hesitation. You're being selfish. That was the word. Selfish. For wanting to keep the space I paid for. For protecting the work that funded their groceries and utilities and Netflix binges. I stood there, realizing something vital. They weren't asking. They weren't negotiating. They'd already decided. So I didn't argue. That night, while everyone was asleep, I started packing. Not everything. Just the things that couldn't be replaced. Laptop. Hard drives. Headphones. The gear that kept me afloat. Trip after quiet trip, I carried them to my car. No one noticed. But in my head, the clock had already started. The next morning, the desk looked bare. Monitors gone. Hardware gone. The room still had the bones of a setup, but the soul of it, my tools, my gear, my grind, that was already in the trunk of my car. Sarah noticed immediately. She didn't ask why I moved it. She just asked where it was. I told her the truth. I relocated my work setup. She frowned, like I'd knocked a family portrait off the wall. Later that day, she pulled me aside and said, "Let's not confuse the kids. It's probably better if you stay out of that room unless you really need something." Like I was the intruder now. Megan overheard and added, "Yeah. It's theirs now. You've got your work stuff somewhere else, right? So what's the issue?" I didn't reply. I nodded once tight. Not agreement. Just acknowledgement that they'd made their decision, and now I was making mine. I tried to work from the kitchen table. That lasted maybe an hour. Jake hovered behind me asking what every button did. Ben slapped the keys when I turned around to get coffee. Megan walked past saying, "Still working on that laptop?" Like it was a hobby, not a job. Sarah chimed in. "They're just curious." Curious doesn't explain the jam-covered fingerprints on my trackpad. I moved to the living room at night. Headphones on. Tried to block everything out. Didn't matter. Megan's shows blasted like she was trying to vibrate the windows loose. She didn't pause when I was on calls. Didn't lower the volume. Didn't ask. The kids screamed in the background like it was a sleepover, not a school night. Calls got dropped. Projects stalled. I missed a deadline for the first time in a year. Not because I wasn't working. Because I couldn't breathe. I tried again. Calmly. Respectfully. I offered options. "If we move a few things around, I can set up in the guest room. Maybe we rotate the kids between the rooms?" If I can just have a door, I can work. Every solution came with one answer. No. Too confusing. Too small. Too much effort. You're overthinking it, Sarah said. Megan laughed. Welcome to real life. Then she said something that stuck with me longer than it should have. You don't have kids. You wouldn't get it. As if not having children meant I forfeited the right to ask for peace and space in the home I was helping to finance. They kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And I finally realized they weren't going to stop. So I started planning. Planning didn't start with rage. It started with silence. I stopped arguing. Stopped explaining. Stopped reacting when Megan took the last of the groceries I bought, or when Sarah hinted the electric bill just seems higher lately. I gave them nothing to push against. No friction. No resistance. Just calm. But I kept track. Every time my door was unlocked after I'd left it logged. Every time I found a scuffed cable, a sticky keyboard, a fingerprint on a screen, documented. I started taking pictures, before and after. I screenshotted rent transfers, utility payments, my internet bill. I didn't do it to win an argument. I did it to remind myself I wasn't imagining it. Then Lily came by. She sat on the edge of the couch like it might bite her. Watched Ben climb onto the coffee table while Megan scrolled through her phone and Sarah pretended not to notice. After 10 minutes, she motioned me into the hallway. This isn't about space anymore, she said, quiet but sharp. They're testing you. Seeing how far they can go before you break. I nodded once. Don't wait until it gets worse, she added. Because it will. That night, I told Sarah the truth. No threats. No drama. Just facts. My job's on the line. I'm paying rent for a room I can't use. I've tried to be reasonable. I've offered solutions. No one's interested. So here it is, either I get my room back or I'm leaving. She looked at me like I'd spoken in Morse code. Oh, Oliver, she said, sighing like I was the difficult one. Why do you make everything so hard? The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. Offered me coffee. Asked if I could help carry a box later. Didn't say a word about my room, my work, or the very real line I had drawn. Megan treated it like a joke. You'll cool off, she said. Wait until you see what rent costs, she added. You'll be back in a month. That was the moment I mentally moved out. I kept my mouth shut. No declarations. No warnings. I searched during lunch breaks. Ran numbers at night. I wasn't looking for perfect. I was looking for peace. A door. Reliable internet. Quiet. After 3 days, I found it. A small studio in an older building. Clean. Affordable with discipline. The landlord didn't care that I worked remotely, just wanted rent on time. I signed the lease. Paid the deposit. Got the keys. Still, I said nothing. Instead, I set my exit in motion. Transferred the internet. Adjusted my auto payments. Marked the last day I'd pay Sarah rent. And then I waited for my day. They felt the shift before they knew what it meant. Sarah started asking questions like she was trying to reverse engineer a storm she hadn't seen forming. Did you pay the internet yet? She asked, all casual. I didn't lie. It transfers on Friday. Her face tightened. Wait, you're taking it with you? It's in my name, I said. I moved. The account moves too. That's when the energy in the house changed. Megan started talking louder. Not to me, around me. Complaining that money was tight. That things were harder than expected. That she thought Sarah had more saved. She said it in the kind of voice meant for someone specific, but addressed to no one. Still no offer to help. No money on the table. Just noise. Then came the doors slamming. Cabinets banging. Snappier tones. The house, once just messy, felt volatile. Even the kids were acting differently, wilder, sharper, like they could sense something was off. I stayed invisible. Until I wasn't. I told Sarah the night before I left. Just us. No crowd. No witnesses. I waited until Megan was out and the house was mostly quiet. I found a place, I said. I'm moving tomorrow. She blinked like I'd just broken a spell. Tomorrow? That's so sudden. No. It's not. I told you the room situation wasn't sustainable. She panicked, not emotionally, financially. That's where it landed. You still have to pay next month's rent, right? I need time to adjust. You can't just leave. I'm not paying for a room I haven't been allowed to use in weeks. That's when Megan showed up, just in time for her entrance. She laughed. He's not actually leaving. I didn't respond. Just stood there calmly. When she realized I wasn't joking, her tone snapped. Are you serious? You're really walking out? Just like that? I looked at her once and said it flatly. I'm not paying to be locked out of my own space. She lost it. You're selfish. You're leaving us in the lurch. You're punishing us because you can't handle a little noise? I didn't answer. I didn't need to justify peace. That night, they tried to keep the energy high. Megan paced, slamming things harder than needed. The kids were restless. Sarah shut herself in her room. I packed the rest of my things in silence. Clothes. Books. The desk would wait until morning. I wasn't dragging a chair down the stairs at midnight just to prove a point. That wasn't what this was about anymore. It wasn't even about a room. It was about finally walking away from a house where my presence was wanted, but my boundaries never were. Morning came like a countdown. I pulled up with Lily. No text ahead. No fanfare. I didn't want an audience or a final act. I wanted clean air and a door that locked behind me. Lily stepped out, took one look at the house, and said, "Let's get your stuff and go." She wasn't smiling. She wasn't trying to keep the peace. She was there for one reason, to make sure nobody stopped me. Megan was in the kitchen. She froze when she saw Lily walk in. "What's she doing here?" she asked, loud enough for Sarah to hear from the other room. Lily smiled without warmth. "Helping my nephew move." Megan sneered. "He's not moving." I didn't respond. I walked past her, heading for the stairs. That's when she stepped in front of me. Arms folded. Blocking the bottom step. "You're not going up there," she said. "The kids are asleep." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't flinch. I just said, "Move." She didn't. But Lily did. She stepped beside me, eyes steady. "Megan," she said calmly, "this isn't your house." Megan's head snapped toward her. "Stay out of it. This is family business." Lily didn't blink. "Exactly." I walked right by. Didn't shove. Didn't even brush her arm. Just stepped past. She didn't follow. Sarah came out from the back, panic already rising in her voice. "What's going on? Why today? I thought you were still thinking about it." I turned to her once. "I told you yesterday. I'm leaving." Her face twisted, grief, anger, guilt, all scrambling for the spotlight. "You're tearing this family apart," she said, her voice cracking. "Do you even realize what you're doing?" I opened the door to my old room. The sight almost stopped me. Toys. Everywhere. Wrappers on the desk. My chair shoved in the corner like it was in timeout. Crumbs in the keyboard tray. A half-finished juice pouch on my shelf. It wasn't just occupied. It was erased. Megan stormed in behind me. "You can't just walk in here and take things. This is their room now. You're traumatizing them." I unplugged what was left. Boxed what I needed. Took nothing more than what was mine. "You're abandoning your nephews," she said. "They're going to remember this. You're doing this to kids." Lily stepped into the doorway like a guard. "Stop using your children as a shield," she said. Megan snapped. "Don't you dare talk to me like that." "Then don't act like this." Lily shot back. "Sarah arrived, already crying? I didn't think you'd really do this. I thought you'd calm down. I thought you'd see what family meant." I didn't stop moving. My desk. My chair. My gear. No yelling. No final speech. Just reclamation. Megan tried to grab one of the boxes. Lily was there in a flash. "Don't." Megan backed off but kept muttering. "Unbelievable. You think money makes you better than us. You'll regret this." Sarah cried. "This is my house." I turned to her finally. "Then you shouldn't have taken my room while taking my rent." She didn't reply. The kids had woken up by then. Jake stood in the hallway blinking at the noise. Ben whimpered. Megan pointed to them like they were evidence. "Look at what you're doing." I didn't speak. Lily gently ushered the boys away. No one helped me carry the boxes down. No one apologized. They just stood there and watched as I left. When the last box was in the car, Sarah followed me to the driveway. You can't just leave us like this, she said, still crying. We're family. I closed the trunk. Family doesn't lock you out of your own space, Megan yelled from the doorway. Don't come crawling back when it falls apart. I looked at her once. I won't. Lily and I got in the car. As we pulled away, no one waved. No one chased us. The house got smaller in the mirror, but I didn't look back. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't waiting for someone to barge into my room or explain why my limits didn't matter. For the first time in a long time, I was free. My new place wasn't glamorous. 4th floor walk up. No elevator. Walls a little too thin. A heater that clanked like it had unresolved trauma. But it had a door that locked, windows that stayed shut, and silence that wasn't laced with resentment. Lily helped me unload. She didn't hover. Didn't comment on how small it was. She just carried what needed to be carried, handed me a coffee, and when we were done said, "You did the right thing." I nodded. She left. I sat on the floor for a while, leaning against a box labeled Essentials and listening to the soft hum of nothing. No footsteps overhead. No doors slamming. No TV competing with my thoughts. Just clean air and peace. The first real test came when I plugged in my setup. No missing cables. No fingerprints. No juice stains. Just my gear, working the way it was built to, untouched and mine. I opened a project I'd been behind on, one that had felt like trying to swim through mud back at the house, and in 3 hours I made more progress than I had in 3 weeks. By the next day, I'd hit a deadline I thought I'd already missed. 3 days after that, the first call came in. Sarah. No hello. No how's the new place. Just, the internet's not working. I moved the account, I said. It was in my name. Silence. Then, you need to put it back. Megan needs it for the boys. I don't live there anymore. She hung up. 2 days later, screenshots of bills started landing in my messages. Electricity, water, gas, none of them new, just suddenly urgent. No context. Just numbers and question marks. I answered once. I'm not paying bills for a house I don't live in. Sarah called again, already shouting. Said I'd abandoned her. Said I was heartless. Said I should have given her more notice. You took my room while taking my rent, I replied. That was the notice. She called me ungrateful. Then she hung up again. Megan stayed quiet at first. Then she started texting like nothing had happened. How's the new place? Settling in okay? No apology. No ownership. Just small talk like she hadn't steamrolled me out of my own space. I didn't reply. That night she tried again. This time it was about money. Sarah's really stressed. Things are tight. Could you help out a little until it settles down? I sent one reply. You live there. You can help. That's when she snapped. Said I was being cruel. Said I was punishing the kids. Said I was doing this to make her fail. Claimed she would never do this to me. I didn't argue. They weren't reaching out for resolution. They were reaching out because they realized what my absence actually meant. Responsibility. And it was getting heavier by the day. Without internet, the house devolved fast. The kids couldn't stream. Megan couldn't stream. And Sarah, who had never learned how to fix a printer, let alone set up Wi-Fi, started snapping. I didn't hear this from them. I heard it from the text threads that started lighting up like Christmas. First was a cousin I hadn't spoken to in 2 years. Hey, what's going on with you and your mom? Then one of Sarah's old friends messaged me out of nowhere. She's hurting. You could have handled it differently. I hadn't posted a thing. But she had. Sarah had taken it online. A vague, dramatic post, no names, just accusations. When your own child walks away during the hardest time of your life. It's true what they say. You never really know people. The comments came flooding in. Support. Sympathy. People ready to rally behind her without context. I stayed quiet for a day. Then I got tired of being the villain in a story where I'd been footing the damn bill. I didn't write a rant. Didn't clap back in all caps. I just posted receipts. Literal ones. Screenshot of rent payments, monthly, regular, time-stamped. My internet bill, my name, my payments, the cancellation date. Photos of my room before and after. Clean workspace turned playpen. No captions. No insults. Just facts. And the facts were louder than any tears she could fake. The tone shifted within hours. People stopped asking me what happened and started asking her why she'd left that part out. The post disappeared the next day. And the texts? They changed too. Okay. I didn't know all that. I'd have left too, honestly. I'm sorry. Not from Sarah. Not from Megan. From the people who had assumed I was the ungrateful one. After that, the house turned on itself. Megan wanted Sarah to pick up the slack. Sarah wanted Megan to step up. Neither wanted to contribute. Both thought the other was the problem. The arguments stopped happening in whispers. They spilled out into the living room. Through the walls. On speakerphone. Sarah started asking Megan for money. Megan started blaming Sarah for making her believe this would be easy. The guest room became a bedroom again. Not for the kids, but because there wasn't another option. My old room sat there like a monument to everything they mishandled. They'd ruined the thing they thought they could keep. Because they never expected me to leave. And they definitely didn't expect me to mean it. A few weeks later, Sarah called again. Her voice was softer this time, less fire, more fatigue. I didn't think you'd actually leave, she said. I told you I would. I thought you'd cool off. That you'd remember this was family. I didn't argue. I didn't need to. She paused. Things are harder now. I know. Long silence. Then, I wish you'd handled it differently. I handled it the only way I could. She didn't reply. She didn't apologize either. Just sighed and hung up. I heard through someone else that Megan was looking for her own place. Sarah was overwhelmed. The house, once full of noise, was now full of tension. Meanwhile, my life got quiet, in the good way. I worked without interruption. Got back on schedule. Paid my rent. Slept through the night. Ate food I bought, untouched by anyone else. No screaming. No slammed doors. Just space. Peace. And my name on the lease. They assumed I left to prove a point. But I didn't. I left to protect one.